Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast, courtesy of Poplug Podcast. You can find more episodes of Spoiler Force Podcast at facebook.com/poplugpodcast or on YouTube and SoundCloud under Spoiler Force Podcast. What up? This is Ricky with Spoiler Force Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to this fourth episode. Usually I release episodes once a week, but this week, because Motor City Comic Con is this weekend in Novi, Michigan, I decided to do another episode for Comic Con tips and just to talk about my overall experience at Comic Con in general. Comic Con is a great way to meet new people, to meet celebrities that you wanted to meet watching TV or movies. Just to get your comic book signed by artists or writers, meet new local artists, and just Facebook artists that you see as well. It's a great way to meet a bunch of people in the comic book community, cosplay community, and again, it's just another way to have fun and just a big way to nerd out. My experiences with Comic Con are mostly good. I've also been to anime conventions, which are pretty much like Comic Con conventions as well. It's just anime genre. I'll name some of the Comic Cons I've been to, such as Motor City Comic Con in Novi, Michigan. I've been to Monroe Comic Con, which is in Monroe, Michigan. I've been to Anime Expo in LA, California. I've been to Heroes and Villains Fan Fest in Chicago, which actually had two conventions put in one. It was Heroes and Villains and Walker Stalker. And I've also been to some other smaller conventions. Michigan Comic Con, I've been to that one too. That was new, and I went there one day last year, and that was in downtown Detroit in Michigan. So yeah, I'll just start off with some tips for Comic Con. Some of my tips I have here for you Comic Con goers. Tips and hygiene for sure. Definitely, definitely shower and use like deodorant or cologne, perfume. Don't overuse it, or do not use any Axe body spray. Please do not use that. That is not a shower. That's just a douchebag way to say that I didn't have to take a shower. Again, hygiene is super important for Comic Con because everyone's gonna be there. It's hot. You're close to people. It's just a lot of lines, and it's just odor and butthole smells are everywhere, and it's always good to stay clean in general. And Comic Con, you're going to be meeting celebrities and writers and whatnot, so you want to give them a good first impression too, and you don't want to go up to them and smell while you give them a handshake or hug. So yes, so stay clean and make sure you don't stink. Also, another tip for Comic Con: stay hydrated. Carry bottles of water with you if the conventions allow it. Where I've been going to lately, they at least allowed me to carry water bottles. So stay hydrated. Bring snacks like energy bars, protein bars, just so that you can snack on something, so that when you're waiting in line, you're not starving. There was a case where our buddy Mark Halberg, who was he was volunteering at Motor City Comic Con. And for those of you who don't know this story, we've mentioned this on Poplug Podcast a few years ago. I'll just briefly go over this. Mark was a volunteer for one of the guests there, and he didn't have any snacks or any drinks on him. When we went to go check on him, he was super pale, and that is a lesson right there, to always have something on you. I had to go buy him pizza. And it's always good to have snacks and drinks with you, because you don't want to lose your spot in line. Waiting in lines at Comic-Con are very long, and it's very hectic. People get impatient. Sometimes you might not even get to meet the celebrity, so it's always good to bring snacks with you. Another tip I have for Comic-Con is make sure you wear comfortable shoes. Wear something that's comfortable, because you're going to be there all day, depending on how long you stay. There was one year I went to Motor City Comic Con. I went all 3 days. I had a VIP badge. So you always want to stay comfortable. Wear comfortable shoes, especially if you're cosplaying. When you're done cosplaying for that day, change into something that's more comfortable. I've seen cosplayers wear all their gear for a whole day, and it just looks miserable. And even though it looks really cool, it's always good to have something as a backup to change into. I'll be talking about some of my experiences here. That's most of the tips I have. If you have any other tips you'd like to mention, you can always email us at popluckpodcast@gmail.com or message us on Popluck Podcast on Facebook as well. Or you can DM me on Instagram, and I'll give that information at the end of the episode here. Now, some of the experiences I had. I'll start off with Motor City Comic Con, since that's this weekend in Novi, Michigan. My first year of Motor City Comic Con was very surreal. I never thought that I'd actually go to a Comic Con, especially by myself. And my first year going, it was so crazy. I bought a 3-day. I remember I bought a 3-day pass, and I was so excited. The lines were long, so I knew that I had to go early. Oh, and that's another tip too. Make sure you go early because the lines are super hectic depending on which con you go to. Motor City Comic Con in Michigan is a big con, and it gets bigger every year. So you always want to go early, and if you have to, book a hotel near the convention so that you can get in line as early as you can. For me, I only lived about like 20 to 30 minutes away from the convention, so I could just drive there and wait in line, but I did have to leave extra early. Now, speaking about my experience on waiting in line, I was very excited, very nervous. I had never been to a convention before, especially by myself, and it's just it's very surreal because you get to see a bunch of people that are similar to you, people who love comic books. Even anime makes its way to comic book conventions too. You get to see a bunch of cosplayers and see how creative people get, and it's a great way to meet new people as well. And sometimes there are some creepers and some people who are very a little bit too touchy. There was one guy that was shaking everyone's hands, and there was no he wasn't using any hand sanitizer, so be careful with that, and carry some hand sanitizer with you too, because you don't want to get anyone sick, or any of the celebrities or any of the guests that are sick. So carry that with you as well. And my first year I met Ralph Macchio, Billy Zabka, and I also met Cameron Bricandova, who played Selena Kyle on Gotham. That year I also met Emily Kinney, who plays Beth on The Walking Dead. I met Billy Boyd, Pippin from Lord of the Rings, which was super amazing. He was so cool, especially because he's just like a hobbit for real. He's not that much taller than I am, but I'm about 5'8", and he's a little bit taller than I am, or about my height. But it was super cool to see him. I could see why they chose him to play a hobbit, because he has very hobbit-like features, and he's just very joyful like a hobbit. So it was pretty cool to meet him. I really wish I got to sing with him, but at the time I didn't bring my guitar, and I wasn't even sure if I could bring my guitar to get signed by him. I also met Steven Yeun that year, and Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead, who plays Glenn. It was before he got big. It was before his death. So when everyone got to meet him, he wasn't too expensive to meet yet. I think at the time I only paid $50 to take a picture with him and to just shake his hand and talk to him. I remember that year I had a selfie stick, and he was like, "Oh man, you have a selfie stick? That's so cool!" So he was using it and taking pictures, and it was really cool to do that with him. And my experiences there that year was really good. Emily Kinney was pretty nice. She was only there for Saturday because I think she had a concert in Michigan, so she made a one-day appearance. And also that year as well, you never know who will be at conventions, because even though they're not guests that are invited, celebrities will still make their way there. The first year I went, on Sunday, Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance, the lead singer, at the time he was doing his solo tour, he was there on Sunday at a toy booth, looking at action figures and stuff. I had no idea he was there until I saw the pictures on Facebook for Motor City Comic Con, and he was there and he took pictures of people. That's so... To this day, I still regret not finding him or seeing him. And, oh man, I'm a huge Gerard Way fan, and so I fangirl... I fangirl about the artist sometimes, and I because I follow him on Facebook, on Instagram. I read his comic books. If you don't know, he wrote the Umbrella Academy, and that's on Netflix as well. And that series he has is a success. And meeting Gerard Way has always been a goal of mine, because I followed My Chemical Romance since I was in high school. And it just sucked because I never got to go to one of their concerts, and to know that he was in Michigan that day, man, I regret not even trying to see if anyone that I follow was there. So always keep your eyes peeled on celebrities that you follow, because sometimes they might be in the cities that you're in, and sometimes they might not be invited to those cons, and even they might even show up. When I went to Michigan Comic Con in downtown Detroit, that was last year, I believe. I got to meet Kevin Conroy, who is the voice actor for Batman, the OG voice on the animated series. Hearing him say, "I am the Knight," I am Vengeance, I am the Knight, I am Batman, was crazy because he had like such a projection to his voice. And if you don't know, he actually did practice theater when he was younger, so he is able to bring that stage presence with him. But man, to hear that live in person was so thrilling, and I had goosebumps. I'm like, oh my god, I get to hear this in person, and it's just amazing to see that. Yeah. Oh, that was my keys dropping. If you wanted to know about that noise there, it was so amazing to hear that in person. And when I met him, I couldn't say anything. I was so starstruck because Kevin Conroy, he became a voice actor by just auditioning at Mall of America. And so when I told him, I was like, dude, you're such an inspiration that anyone can be successful in this kind of field, and you are a success story. And he was like, thank you, man. I'm so thankful that you're willing to still support, Batman, and still support what I do. And hearing him talk in person was hearing Bruce Wayne. I was just like, in my head at the time, I was like, oh my god, this is Bruce Wayne. And and it was just so crazy. I also met the who did I also meet? I met the voice actress for Naruto. I'm drawing a blank on her name, but the English voice actor, and I got her to say "Believe It" for one of my cousins, so that was pretty cool too. I'm not too big on the English dub for Naruto. I just wanted to meet her because it's the voice of Naruto, and she's been working in that field for a while as well. And then also, I went to Heroes and Villains in Chicago. There at that event, I met Katrina Law, who plays Nissa Al Ghul, and she's also in Spartacus. I've met her previously also as well at Motor City. So when I met her at Heroes and Villains, that was my second time. And I gotta say, Katrina Law is one of those actresses that I'm willing to pay and meet again at every con that I go to, because she is such a great personality, and she's so nice and outgoing to people. She's not afraid to interact with her fans. And so if you ever want to meet a great celebrity, meet Katrina Law. And she's not expensive to meet in person. I believe I only paid like $40 for her autograph. I believe someone at her booth or someone near her booth was giving out free photo ops for her too as well. So you might get to meet people who do that to fans who go to conventions. Yeah, meeting Katrina Law was super cool. I took a Polaroid with her, and I also took a professional photo with her back in Motor City Comic Con. And so she's really cool. And if she ever comes back to a con that I'm going to or ever going to, I wouldn't mind paying to meet her again. And at Heroes and Villains, I got to meet OTA, which is the original Team Arrow. I met David Ramsey, who played Diggle on Arrow. I met Emily Bett Rickards, who plays Felicity. And I also met Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell was actually very different in person than I thought he'd be. He's very, I wouldn't say an introvert, but he's very quiet. And I understand why he's like that too, because he knows that his lines are long at conventions. So he doesn't want to take too much time greeting, or at least talking and conversating, because he wants to give everyone the same amount of time so that he can give autographs and photos for people. I don't think he does photos at his booth, but he does autographs. And so, you can talk to him for a few seconds, but then he wants to keep the line moving because he knows that there's a lot of people who want to meet him and get autographs. So he wants to give an equal share of his time to everyone as much as possible. And sometimes at conventions, he does stay after when he's actually supposed to leave. So I think that's such a great way to be a celebrity and a great way to give time back to your fans who invested you. And he did a very good job at Motor City Comic Con as well. He did the same thing. He stayed after and he signed a bunch of autographs. His line was so hectic because there was people literally waiting a whole day's worth just to get an autograph from Stephen Amell, and he still stayed. So that's a great celebrity to meet as well. And when I met Emily Bett Rickards, she was super nice. She's very quirky and very pretty much the same as she is on the show. As much as I don't like her character on Arrow, meeting her in person, I had to meet her because I've been watching that show since the second season came out. And so I had to meet her. She was one of the bucket list celebrities, actresses that I wanted to meet. And when I met David Ramsey, who John Diggle, he was super cool too, because I never knew he was from Michigan. He graduated from Wayne State University. And so when I got talking to him, I was like, hey, I bought this Funko Pop that was signed by you. Is this your autograph? And he confirmed it. His wife confirmed it. And he wanted to make sure that I wasn't being ripped off. And I told him that I bought it for X amount of price. And he's like, yeah, that's about right. So, yeah, so thanks for running that by me. Because a lot of celebrities, if you don't know, a lot of celebrities hate flippers. Most of them will personalize it, but then if you don't want to, they'll still just sign their name. Most of my Funko Pops that I have signed, they're not personalized, only because I want it to just have the celebrity's autograph on there. Even though I don't plan to sell them, I just want it to be how it's signed versus saying to Ricky, or or from someone to someone like that. So yeah, John Diggle was John Diggle, but David Ramsey was super cool. And when I met them, it was during the time where Oliver and John Diggle fought on the show. And so I asked David Ramsey, I was like, hey, if you were to really fight Stephen Amell, could you take his right cross? And he's like, he looks at Stephen Amell's table, looks back at him, he goes, oh yeah, I could definitely take it. He's like, which is so funny because he was so confident in that. And then vice versa, when I asked Stephen Amell that, I was like, hey, Stephen Amell, if you fought David Ramsey and he hit you like how he did in the show, could you walk that off? He goes, no, he's way too big. And it was just so funny seeing their reactions of that. Heroes and Villains, that convention is really nice. There's tons of celebrities there. There's a lot of celebrities from Gotham that was there as well. I met David Mazouz. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, but he plays Bruce Wayne from Gotham, and he was super like chill. I forget that he's just a young kid playing Bruce Wayne. So when I met him, he was like, "Hey man, thanks for supporting Gotham, and thank you for coming through." And I shook his hand. I was like, I have to say this, man, young Master Bruce. And he was like, he repeated it back in like Alfred's voice, because in Alfred's accent. He's like, thank you so much, man. I love it when people say young Master Bruce. Like, it was so cool to just see this kid or this child star, because when you watch Gotham, he's still little. He's only like, what, 11 or 12, something around that. And you practically see him grow on the set of Gotham. If you watch Gotham and follow Gotham, you see this kid grow to be a young adult. And I was like, wow, man, he's definitely Bruce Wayne. You can see why they casted him as Bruce Wayne. So I took a photo with him as well at his booth. I got to see his dog. His dog's always at the conventions with them. His mom was there doing table work with them as well. Robin Lord Taylor was there, who plays Penguin. I didn't meet him at Heroes and Villains, but I did meet him at Motor City Comic Con the year before as well, which was the same year I met Katrina Law for the first time. And Robin Lord Taylor is really cool too. He's a very humble person. He doesn't say much, and he's very like outgoing and nice, and he's always willing to, just talk about anything with fans. And when I met him, I was cosplaying as Penguin. He complimented my costumes, like, thank you so much for coming and representing Penguin. And I remember asking them at their at their panels. I asked him, I was like, hey, do you ever think they'll make you gain weight for the role of Gotham, or for the role of Penguin in Gotham? And he laughs. He goes, I hope not, but if they do, then hopefully they just give me a suit. And yeah, it turns out they did. At the end of Gotham, they gave him a fat suit, because Penguin in the show and also or at least in the Penguin in the cartoons and Penguin in the comic books, he's fat. So it was really cool. And I think Robert Lord Taylor, as an actor himself, he really molded himself to be Oswald Cobblepot, and he made that character his own. And yeah, it was super cool meeting him. Also, I've been to Anime Expo in LA. I didn't get to meet any celebrities there. I got to meet a lot of cosplayers though, and if you didn't know this, especially to our new listeners, I'm a big supporter for cosplayers. Not only because at least the cosplayers I follow, it's not because they're hot, even though they are. These cosplayers, they're gifted in making these materials and doing costume designs. There was one cosplayer that I met. Her name was Vampy. I believe her stage name on Facebook is called Vampy Bit Me, and she cosplayed like a Gundam styled cosplay, and you can see that the details of her costume was so cool. And I never really got into asking what materials cosplayers use, because I don't know how to build on my own. I do when I cosplay, I do very simple. I do like a Marvel civilian, little baseball hat, dark sunglasses, leather jacket. cosplay penguin, you just wear a nice suit, do your hair, bring an umbrella, you know, just simple stuff. So when I see cosplayers who actually make their material, I give them a lot of credit because of that. That's something I can't do, and it's the same way how I feel about artists. Which is why I support a lot of artists I see on Facebook or local artists because I can't draw to save my life. And so when I see these people who are talented in the stuff that I can't do, I support them a lot, or at least I try to find a way to support them. So going on with Anime Expo, I got to meet Amy Lynn, Vampy Vitme. I got to meet Nicole Marie John. I met her twice actually. I met her at LA. I met her in LA and I met her in Motor City Comic Con. Sadly, she didn't remember me because the time frame between when I first met her and met her the second time was about 2 years. And when I met her, I got to talk to her about her experience on the red carpet for Infinity War, and she got to take selfies with Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch. I believe she took selfies with some other actors like Mark Ruffalo and Chris Pratt. And so when I was getting to talk to her about that, she was like, "Oh man, that was so cool. I never dreamed of being there, and it's just that was such an amazing experience." I wasn't jealous, but I'm just like, man, that's just so crazy to see that someone you follow on Facebook who works hard at their art gets to go and experience that kind of. They get to go and experience that kind of, red carpet premiere, and they get to meet all these cosplayers, I'm not cosplayers, but they get to meet all these actors that they cosplay. I've also met Annie Mia and Ivy Doom Kitty. I got to meet them at Motor City. Both of those cosplayers, I met them all 3 days when they were there. I gotta say, those two, Annie Mia and Ivy Doom Kitty, were by far one of the nicest people I've ever met, especially Ivy Doom Kitty. She's an advocate for like just being naturally beautiful because she's not, how can I say this now? She's a bigger girl, a bigger figure. She has a bigger figure, and so she's all about being proud of yourself and just being happy in your own skin. So I like that she does that for herself and to teach kids and to teach cosplayers that you don't have to look a certain way to be a cosplayer. It's all about your art and it's all about who you are. So I really like that she's promoting that in her cosplay and also her social media platforms. So definitely follow them if you do see those cosplayers on your timelines or see people like them. Going on with other cosplayers I've met, or at least I didn't meet her, but I saw Jessica Negri. I've got to say, this is just from my experience. She was not so nice. Her and Yaya Han. I met Yaya Han and Michigan Comic Con in downtown Detroit. I might get some flack for this, but when I saw, or at least when I saw Jessica Negri, and then when I met Yaya Han, I mean they were nice, they were kind of nice, but just like I don't know. I felt like they were kind of just full of themselves, knowing that they're like top tier cosplayers. I'm not gonna bash them on their art. I can separate the person from the art. I give them a lot of credit. Jessica Negri's armor is one of the best armor designs, and she's one of the best armor creators out there, which is why I can see why she's at where she's at. But just I don't know. I got a really bad first impression of her. Same thing with Yaya Han. She was first impression she's nice and everything, but when you get to talk to her and stuff, she kind of just rubs you off, and like her security guards are there, they were kind of dicks too. I'm like, I'm not trying to grab her or anything, like I know where to stay, and I know my place when it comes to these models. There's tons of creepy dudes that try to grab them and grope them, and especially at Comic Cons nowadays, you don't want to catch a case. So definitely when at least when you touch someone, ask for their permission. And I made that mistake back in LA a few years ago, and I was, everyone was so nice in LA, so they were, everyone's grabbing you and stuff or not grabbing, everyone's hugging you and getting close to you. So there was this one case where I took a photo of this one girl, and out of instinct, I barely touched her shoulder. My fingertips just barely touched her, and she jumped like a freaking cat. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And she's like, and she freaked. So I learned from that, and everyone's got to learn somehow. So another tip as well, make sure when you take pictures of people, you get their permission first. Nowadays, a lot of cosplayers just want photos of themselves. So definitely, if you want to take a picture with them, ask them. Don't ever jump into like cosplayers who are taking professional photos. Don't interrupt them while they're doing that, because that's kind of their job. They get, or at least that's how they that's how they promote themselves as well. So don't ever like jump in during their professional photo shoots or when there's like photographers taking actual good photos of them. Wait till they're done with that, and just ask them, can I take a photo with you? Can I take a selfie with you? And is it okay if if it's okay if is it okay if I put my arm around your shoulder type thing? I mean, if you always ask, it's most likely they'll be kind of cool with it. But it's always just be aware that when you do that to cosplayers or even celebrities, just keep that in the back of your mind that you might catch a case. And like recently, what I've been doing is just putting my hands behind my back because I don't want. You never know, man, because people see things and they look at things differently nowadays, and other people are looking like, oh my god, this person's touching you, and you never know who's looking. So it's best to just keep your hands to yourself. The first few times I went to cons, they weren't so bad, but recently they've been like that. So I've learned to just kind of take a nice picture of them and leave. Some artists that I've met at Comic Cons. I've met Koi Pam at Michigan Comic Con. He's an artist for Teen Titans. He does a lot of DC stuff, Marvel stuff. When I met him, he was really cool too. He was very chill. I felt kind of bad because he's a pretty decent artist, and they put him at a small table, and so I bought like I think I bought a print from him. I don't remember, but then I did get him to sign my Teen Titan books. And I just got to talk to him. I was like, hey, how does it feel like to work with DC and drawing? He goes, yeah, you get paid for it, and it's a good experience. You never know when they get to request you to draw for them. And so I got to meet him. I got to meet Neil Adams. Neil Adams was okay. I felt like I paid a little bit too much to get a print from him. I've met Bernard Chang, who drew for Batman Beyond, and he's doing the current run for Teen Titans as well for DC. I also met Ed McGuinness, who did the Spider-Man/Deadpool books, and he's done a bunch of other Marvel and DC books as well. Ed McGuinness was pretty cool too because I showed him the first issue of Deadpool's Spider-Man/Deadpool, and he goes, "Oh man, a lot of people's been having this book, and it's great that you have this as well." And I was talking, I was like, "How does it feel like to just draw to know what you're drawing?" And again, a lot of the artists say the same thing. Maybe I should just change up my questions when I meet them. But Ed McGuinness was really nice. He was just, he says it's a really cool experience because you never know what you're getting to draw. And so when you get requested to draw for DC or Marvel like that, you just get excited because you get to draw something new, and that's going to be on the shelves and it's brand new. And it's a really cool experience. I also met Chris Burnham, who drew for Teen Titans as well. He did mostly the B covers for Teen Titans, and he has this very unique way of drawing because I believe he did something for Robin back in the day. But like his style is like anime-ish or childlike anime-ish. But then he has like a very distinct way of drawing. So when you see his artwork, it's very you'll know that it's him. So I had like several books signed by him as well, or at least some of my Teen Titan books from the Rebirth line. And then I also met Joe Prado, who did the Justice League of America run, and he also drew the DC Universe Rebirth first book, which was like the introduction to the DC Universe line, and he drew for them as well. I try to meet as much artists as I can now because now that I'm reading more comic books, I do want to meet writers and comic book artists versus just always just going there for the celebrities and for the mainstream media guest. It's also cool to meet your local artists too because you never know what kind of talents in your state or what kind of local talent from other states that come by. You never know who you'll meet, and you never know if they'll blow up. One artist that I met was Andrew Santiago, and he has this huge booth, and he does like drawings of the actual actors and characters in movies and stuff and TV shows. And I bought like every time he's at a con, I always end up buying one or two of his prints. And I have like a whole collection of his stuff. The first stuff I saw that he drew was like a head, like a portrait, like from the head up, just the flash, reverse flash, and zoom. I bought that right off the bat. He had one of Savitar. I bought that right off the bat. I bought his Jon Snow art, his Daenerys art. I bought his Green Arrow, Supergirl art from the CW. I bought his Captain America and Bucky, Infinity War prints. I bought his Captain America, the Civil War Captain America and Iron Man prints. I bought a bunch of stuff from this guy, and I told him that I was like, dude, I love your artwork because it's so different, and it's an actual like, I think it's an 11x18 or no, it's not 11x18. It's bigger than that, but it's a pretty big print, and he sells it for about like $10 a print, and he has like a deal or something like that. But then it's been a while since I bought it from him. I forgot. But I remember when I saw him in Heroes and Villains, and I told him, I was like, hey, dude, I love your artwork, and every time I see you, every time I see your booth at a con, I always end up trying to buy something because I like your art and I want to support you. And so when I told him that, he gave me this pretty big discount. I had like that weekend I bought like 8 pieces of his art, and I only paid $50 for it, so that's not bad. So that was really cool. Again, you never know who you're gonna meet, and you never know who you're gonna support, and it's really cool to just make those small connections with those people. Again, just to continue on with my Comic-Con experience, I've also met John Berthal, who plays the Punisher, and who's also Shane from The Walking Dead. And at the time when I met him, he was just done filming the Punisher season, or he was like midway doing Punisher season 1, but he was done with the Daredevil season 2. He was done with Daredevil season 2. So when I met him, and I was like, John, dude, I love your work, man, because you're so good at being an angry actor, right? And I believe he was on. He either just got done smoking marijuana because he could smell it, but I definitely think it's for medical reasons. He probably has anxiety issues. But he had glasses on the whole time too, so you can tell he was smoking. But when I met him, and he was just so chill. He's like, thank you, man. I don't know how I do it, but I just do it. He has like that growl to his voice. And when I met John Bernthal, I was like, holy shit, dude, it's fucking Shane. And I got the autograph from him. I took a photo out with him, and he was an experience to me. And if I ever meet him again, I definitely would. And because Game of Thrones is coming to its finale as well, I actually met Lena Headey, who plays Cersei. At the time, she had short hair because she just got done doing that shame scene, and so when I met her, she's very like, she has like this elegantness to her. She stands up very tall. She has a very good posture. So when I met her, I shook her hand, and she was so cool. And I was like, Lena, let's do a Lannister pose. And she just, she had like that Lannister smirk. So I had a straight face in my picture with her. So that was pretty cool. I kind of wish she didn't wear her hat, but then it's Lena Headey. It's whatever, man. She's a Lannister. She could do whatever the fuck she wants. And it's pretty cool too, because sometimes there are celebrities that you hope that are coming. And sometimes they get there late. And there was one celebrity that I met that she got to Motor City Comic Con late, and it was Holland Roden from Teen Wolf. She plays Lydia. She was super cool to me too. It's crazy because she just arrived from the airport, and from the airport she went straight to the con. That's dedication to me, because you could tell she just looked tired and she didn't want to be. Come on, you just got off the airplane. You don't want to be there, but she still went there to show the fans that she cared. And then she was there for the rest of the weekend as well. So that was really cool to meet her. And I saw her twice that weekend. I got my photo out with her the day that she got there late because I already pre-ordered my ticket. But then the following day, where she got rest and she got to do her hair and stuff, she was really nice after that. Or I mean, she was already nice before, but it was just she was much nicer after that, the day after she got rest too. So it was funny. I was wearing my Star Labs shirt, and she was like, "Oh, what's Star Labs? Are you working there? Are you an intern there?" I'm like, I find that so funny because she didn't know what Star Labs was, and I really wish I just went with it and just said, "Yeah, I'm an intern at Star Labs, and we are working on like prototypes." But I was like, "No, it's a shirt from a TV show," and it was so funny. It was just so funny hearing that from her, because like it was very innocent. She didn't know. I didn't want to be a dick about it, but then I at the same time I really wish I got to just play off what she said and tell her that I was a scientist or something. Again, I met Billy Zabka twice. I mentioned that I met him earlier. I met him and Ralph Macchio and the actor for John Kreese, Martin Kove, the actor who plays Kreese, who is Johnny Lawrence's sensei on Karate Kid. The first time I met them, I did a photo op with all three of them, like a Karate Kid photo op. So when I met Martin Kove, man, it's just, he was intimidating. Like, he literally was like how he was in the Karate Kid back in the 80s, and he has a very firm handshake. And when I met him, he's like, "Nice to meet you, son." I'm like, holy shit, it's fucking Cobra Kai, man. Like, I felt that Cobra Kai energy from him. And then that day I was wearing a Batman shirt, so I got to shake Billy Zabka's hand and Ralph Macchio's hand, and Ralph Macchio was like, "Hey, Batman!" You know, he has like that accent too. So like it was really cool to hear that in person because I used to think that accent was fake, but then that is as real as it gets. That's who he is, and hearing that from him or hearing him say that was so cool. And I get to brag about it. I get to say Ralph Macchio called me Batman, and no one could take that from me. And meeting Billy Zabka, he was super nice too because I mean, actors aren't like their characters, but like, you know, a lot of people who meet their celebrities have like that pedestal of them being how they are in the show or their movies. And so yeah, I knew he was nice, but I didn't think he was as gentle as he was. I thought he would be more like aggressive in person, but he's super cool. So when I met him the second time at Motor City Comic Con, he just got there. He had his coffee. I mean, come on, like, celebrities who get there early when they're actually awake and wanting to be there, that's the best time to meet them because that's when, you know, they know that the crowd's waiting for them. So when I met him and I took a like a fight pose with him, and he looked at me. He goes, "Hey man, I could tell you did some fighting back in your day. Did you do anything?" And I didn't want to brag, but I did do some boxing and some wrestling when I was younger, and I did want to get into MMA. So I told him that I had like a minor background in that, and he's like, "Yeah, I can tell, man. I can tell by just your posture that you've done some stuff." But do karate, man. It was like the funniest thing because he was promoting his Cobra Kai show, and so hearing him say that too, that was super cool. And I geeked out so bad when I didn't think I'd geek out as bad as I did when I met Billy Zabka. I was just like, holy shit, it's Johnny Lawrence. In my head, like all the like just watching it as a kid and knowing that my parents watched them growing up as well. It was super cool to know that, man, this guy played a huge role in our family's life because my dad likes Cobra Kai, my mom likes Karate Kid and Cobra Kai and all that stuff. So it was super cool to meet someone that was a part of my parents' life as well. And I'm just going to go over a few more things here before I sign off. I know I've been talking about all these celebrities that I've met, and I just want to go give my experience with a few more people that I've met as well. I met Ming Chen from Comic Book Man. He was super cool. Because I went to his panel and I sat in the front and because I had VIPs and they were podcasting, and you know they were podcasting in this smaller room. At the time, I wasn't too big on podcasting. I was just learning about how they podcast and stuff. At the time, I think we were Public Podcast. Me, Andrew, and Mark. At the time, we were just starting podcasting, and I didn't really understand how everything worked and how to use equipment. So when I met him, he shook my hand, and I met him at his booth. He didn't charge me for any photos. He was like, "Dude, just keep that money and buy your comic books, man." But he gave me advice on podcasting and stuff. He was like, you know, just this advice is not just for me, but it's for anyone who wants to podcast. From what Ming Chen told me, he said, you know, just be yourself, man. Just talk about what you like, and you know, don't be afraid to talk about it, and don't be afraid of what your listeners have to say. If you want a podcast, just do it. And you know, it's very typical advice, but it's so cool to hear that from someone who is a part of that, you know, comic book nerd world and who's had success doing that. So that was very encouraging to me to hear that from someone like Ming Chen. And he said that right after he told me not to pay for a photo, and it was super cool. I mean, like I think that's the only celebrity I've met who's told me to not pay for a photo, or not for a photo op, but for a picture at their booth. And lastly, I do want to talk about how I met Adam West. Rest in peace. I mean, Adam West wasn't too big in my life, but then any real Batman fan knows that Adam West was, you know, a huge part in that community. And I was super fortunate to meet him before he passed away that year. And when I met Adam West, you know, besides his work with Family Guy, I just wanted to meet him because, you know, he's Batman, dude. Like, he is the 60s Batman. He's a legend and just on TV. And when I met him, I was just so starstruck. I was like, dude, this is fucking Adam West. And I shook his hand, and he was like, "Oh, hello, son." You know, he saw that I had my Batman action figure, and he asked me what my name was. You know, at the time, I only wanted his signature, and I look back at it now. Do I regret having it personalized? A little bit. I'm still salty about it, but he played me. He got me, and I understand why celebrities want to personalize it. They don't want you to sell the product with their names on it just to make money. That's not cool. And yeah, when I met him, he personalized my Batman figure to me. I shook his hand. I got to take a picture with him. Adam West was one of the most kind guys ever, and just hearing him speak at his panel, I have it on my YouTube channel, and I'll probably post links of my Comic Con experience on Facebook or on SoundCloud, and you can check it out and follow, or on YouTube as well. And you can see where I'm coming from with the Comic Con experience. I took some videos of my questions and the panels and stuff like that, and I'll let you guys check that out yourselves. But yeah, Adam West was definitely someone that I was fortunate to see, and I'm glad that I got to meet him. Because after meeting him, I think it was just a few months after that he passed away, and he was hitting almost 100. And when I met him, he looked so healthy, and he was happy to meet his fans. He was super cool, very laid back, and hearing him talk about he's mentioned it before, but hearing him just discuss about the other Batmans, and it's very nice to hear him. He said it himself. Christian Bale was one of his favorite Batmans, and so for those who don't like Christian Bale, it's whatever. I mean, he gives respect to him. But yeah, he was a very big part of just, at least for me, in my comic book life, just to know that he played Batman and he portrayed Batman, who's one of my favorite heroes. And so yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just just the tips, and to just talk about my experience meeting celebrities. I know I jumped around with the timeline here of meeting celebrities. Again, I have met so many that it's just hard to remember that when I met them and where I met them. These are just mostly highlights of celebrities that I've met. If you do want to know, I am going to Cincinnati Comic Con in September 20th to 22nd. So I'll be there if you want to meet me, if you even know who I am. But I'll be posting about it soon by that time. And yeah, I'll be going there for all 3 days. I'm there to see Ben McKenzie and his wife Morena Baccarin, who's also in Deadpool. They both played Jim Gordon and Lee Tompkins in Gotham. So I do want to meet them. They're definitely on my bucket list because I love that show Gotham, and I'm sad to see that it was finished. But yeah, there are definitely people I want to see, and I know that whenever one of them is in a con, their spouse is with them, so you're guaranteed to meet both of them unless something happens. But I doubt that there's any scheduling conflicts for them since Gotham is done. And there's also actors in the Umbrella Academy there as well, so I'll probably go see them. And there's some voice actors in Cincinnati Comic Con, some artists that I want to see, like Frank Cho, he's there. So I have a bunch of Harley Quinn books that have his art on it. So I might get some of them. I'm not gonna get all of them signed, just get some of them signed. I'll be driving there, so I'll be driving from Detroit, Michigan to Cincinnati. It's like a 4.5 hour drive. I'll be getting there that weekend. I'll be staying at one of the hotels nearby as well. I'll probably just try to plan this out better as well. I'll probably make some episodes or do some podcast episodes when I'm there as well after spending the day at a con or whatnot. But you never know. Something might come up, and I'll let you know if there's anything that changes. And also, I do want to let you know, I'll give you an update on my equipment as well. For those of you who do want a podcast, remember to get a TRS to TRRS adapter if you're trying to just use your smartphone or iPhone. I was missing those adapters, so I wasn't able to use my microphones that came in the mail yesterday. So if you ever want a podcast, make sure you have those adapters. And I'll be also talking about a special movie of mine in my next episode, which is, and I'll probably cue some music right here, and it's called The Room by Tommy Wiseau. I believe I mentioned this before. If I have not, I've met Tommy Wiseau earlier this year. I met him in Royal Oak, Michigan at the Landmark Theater. This next episode that I'll be doing, I'll be talking about my experience of meeting Tommy Wiseau and talking about why I like the movie The Room so much. And I'll be just mentioning about my experience with that as well. And if you don't know what The Room is, definitely check it out. Check out Tommy Wiseau's work. It's very unorthodox, but I've come to be a fan of his work, and I'm proud to say that I am a cult follower of The Room. So if you ever want to, if you don't have anything to do, definitely check out that movie. It's called The Room, not Room with Brie Larson, but it's called The Room, and it will have Tommy Wiseau's face on that cover. So this is me, Ricky, signing off with Spoiler Force. Thank you for listening again. Enjoy your time this weekend at Motor City Comic Con in Novi, Michigan. If you're going there this weekend, I won't be there, but have fun there. Enjoy your time there. Remember my tips. Remember to just be kind and to just be aware of of your health and other people's health. So stay hydrated. Stay have snacks, and be clean, and make sure your breath don't stink, and make sure that before you take it, remember when you take photos, always ask if you can give them hugs or something, because you don't want to catch a case. So keep your hands to yourself, but if they let you hug, you can hug them and take photos with your arm around the person that you're with. And for cosplayers, they work hard at what they're doing, so be aware that there's multiple people taking pictures of them. So if you really want to take a photo of that cosplayer, wait. Or if you want to take a picture of them, wait, and then take a photo with them. So always ask as well, and just be aware of your surroundings, man. Just don't make sure you don't bump into kids, and don't run people over, and be patient, because everyone's there everyone's there to have fun. So just don't ruin your time or other people's time just because you're not getting something that you want, and just enjoy it, man. Enjoy Comic-Con. That's a great way to just have fun and to just nerd out 100%. So, thank you for listening. This is another episode of Spoiler Force. Listen to my other episodes on SoundCloud, on YouTube, iTunes. I'm still working on uploading my material on iTunes. I believe after my 5th episode, I'll be able to get my episodes up on iTunes, and you can listen there as well. All right. So again, thank you so much for listening. Give me feedback, rate my material, comments. You can message me on Facebook at Popluck Podcast. You can also email me at popluckpodcast@gmail.com. DM me on Instagram at RickyVang92. If you have any questions like for me to answer, or if you just have any criticism, critique, any feedback at all, is greatly appreciated. So again, make sure you check out all that social media stuff, and just follow my social media on Instagram, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook. And I'll be posting links of my Comic-Con experience, like the panels and whatnot as well. So just watch that, and let me know what you think. All right, so thank you, and have a great night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow my Instagram at RickyVang92, RICKYVANG 92, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook.com/PopluckPodcast.